Hey, everybody. Welcome to GLP's 10 out of 10, our weekly series where we ask the same 10 questions to designers from around the world. This week, we have lighting designer Jason Baeri. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Very well, man. Very well. Jason is the lighting designer for the current Weeknd After Hours tour, which, as we all sit through this interesting time in the world, is temporarily on hold. Jason's worked extensively on a lot of projects from Kelly Clarkson, again, The Weeknd, Rammstein, Nine Inch Nails, Lady GaGa Art Pop Tour as associate designer along with Roy Bennett. And Jason's one of the most prolific lighting director programmers in the industry that we have at the moment. So yeah, welcome, man. Let's have some fun with the 10 questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So starting right out of the gate. So what was your first show as a designer?
So the very first thing as a designer that I did was probably somewhere around 1999. I can think of, I grew up working at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, and it was a big roadhouse, so we had a lot of turnover and a lot of rep plot stuff. And one of my earlier ones that I can remember doing was some stuff for B.B. King, who would come through every year. And he was, I mean, as anybody that loves any kind of rock and roll music, he's just like the greatest performer in the world. Even as he was getting up there in age, he would just get up there for ages, and there was not a member of the audience that he didn't connect with. So yeah, that was the earliest thing that I think I was involved in, somewhere around 14 or 15 years old.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So a complete flip from that. What was the most Spinal Tap moment, embarrassing moment on a show you're willing to tell us about?
So there's a story I've told a few times, but it's still going to forever be my favorite show story. And it's one that I actually used as a name for my company for a while for billing. But during the first Nails tour that I was involved with, as the programmer, I was assisting Roy Bennett, and one of the major components of it were these 14 or 15 pods that would come down. They were about a meter by a meter pods, plus or minus, and we would have them in different configurations. And a few songs like right above head high, So as with a lot of shows, that show was probably about half time code and half manual. But one of the songs that we kept on time code was March of the Pigs, which has this really nice break a couple times in the song. And he holds this really kind note that's, "Doesn't it make you feel better?" And through 3 or so weeks of rehearsal, he sang it mostly the same way every night, and so we didn't think anything of it. We thought, okay, good. This is a song that he's got locked in the way that he likes, and we'll stay locked in with him, and that's more than fine. And we get to the first show, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "Doesn't it make you feel better?" And that note goes on for, to me, what felt like 40 years. And we have a little speaker up front so we can hear him. And he clicks back in the talkback mic in the calmest voice I've ever heard. And he goes, "Nice lights, assholes," as he's sitting there in the dark for what should have been like a moment where he had 30 more seconds of light. And then the song kicks back in, and it's this big, hardcore rager. And he decides to take it out on us by taking this guitar and splintering it into pieces into the lighting pod that's just above his head. And then the guitar, of course, is now a useless pile of kindling. So he grabs the next one, so he grabs a microphone stand and splinters it into the ceiling. And so that phrase, "nice lights, assholes," is something that has continued with us for me for years.
Lessons learned. That's a good story.
Yeah, I like that
one. All right, so number 3. So what's the best advice anybody gave you, either professionally or otherwise?
So one of the greatest things that I've learned is not a singular moment lesson, but I can remember one particular song that I was working with, that I was putting together for Roy, for Rammstein, he was never shy about when a moment should be big. You know, you're always trying to find a way to break up your rig, to find something that's not just all lights on or not all this. And so you can get caught up in trying to be a little too theatrical on a rig. And he stopped me a few times during this one song we were putting together, and it said, "Don't afraid to be big. Don't be afraid to be big." Sorry, he said it in English, and I, of course, did not. But yeah, don't be afraid to be big was something it's a very simple phrase, but it's really hard to remind yourself all the time when you're trying to hold back or reserve or not give everything away all at once. Don't worry about the nature of trying to make one part of your rig special if it's not a special effect. Make your rig sing and do what it can, as big as it can when the moment calls for it, and don't save that big look for later. You come up with another big look for later, and you come up with another big statement for later.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So from a professional standpoint, what's your proudest achievement?
I hate to fall back a bit. That Nails tour is probably one of my favorite ones that I've ever done. I'm proud of almost every single tour that I've had the pleasure of working on. I've had some really great opportunities to work with some really great artists, but that one was the one where we got to do the most amount of stuff with the least amount of rules. It was really what looked right in that moment. That show was not only presented in such an overt theatrical way, but also without regard to making anything pretty. It was designed to make everything impactful and have a moment, have a connection with an audience, and that was not something we get to do a lot.
Copy. That's cool, man. What is it that you do in your downtime? What little you normally would have?
Yeah, I used to travel, and I know that's kind of a generic response, but part of the reason this industry has always suited me really well is it affords me an opportunity to not just take the days off, but use every place you end up in the world as a jumping off point. You know, somewhere between climbing the Great Wall and seeing I can say that I've been to North Korea for exactly 2 minutes of my life, and that's all I needed to be, is that I'm going to cross that country off the list. I've getting to traipse around and see all these particularly special parts of the world that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. I owe to this job and my pension for just trying to get out and go someplace. But that's taken up a good majority of my free time over the last few years. And now, of course, I travel, but I just walk up and down the West Side Highway. Changes a little.
To the outdoor bars.
Yeah, exactly.
So in all of your travels, from a work standpoint, what's the best venue you've ever worked in?
I know I'm biased as a New Yorker, but I love coming into Radio City. There's a shock and awe of the scale of that room and the detail in that room. Aside from the fact that I love the history of what we do, and not just the performance history, but the actual history of how the physical devices in our industry work. And so one of the things about Radio City is the 500 channel 5-scene preset that's right in the pit, and then the way that they do that curtain with it's still operated by a guy back there setting individual dials for every single curtain move. I mean, it is just the world's loveliest venue. The crew there is second to none. From every single member of that crew is second to none. And just being from an audience perspective, it's like that scene in Gladiator where he walks in and he goes, "I didn't know men could build such things." I mean, it is such an impressive room that every show that goes in there takes on that room as part of the character of that particular show. That's why they shoot so many specials, This Person at Radio City, is because that the life of that room is every much a part of the show that comes into it.
Right. Awesome. It's an incredible room.
Yeah.
All right. So knowing that you're a music buff, during this time of quarantine, your house is on fire. What is the one artist or album grabbing as you run out of the building? What's the one thing you couldn't do without?
That's I saw the question and I was trying to figure it out. I walked around yesterday to this with this awful anthem of music that I used to listen to when I was in like grade school, and like weird stuff from the 90s that I was listening to. But there's this one album that I keep coming back to. It's this electronic band that I could see your eyes rolling as I say that. But I've been looking for anything to keep my spirits up. So there's this group called C2C, which is the letter C, number 2, letter C. That's 4 guys beat matching each other on turntables, and it's the weirdest but most uplifting collection of music that I've been able to come across lately. It's just the kind of thing that it just it's when I'm walking around 9 times out of 10, I'll start with that and just kind of roll from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could go back in time, what advice would you give the teenage Jason Baeri?
Have a little bit more fun with it. I'm at a pretty good place now, and I'm happy with the way shows come together. But there were, especially like when I was in school, when I was in college, there's all these moments that I can remember skipping life moments in normal growing up life that to do a show that I thought was important for my career, to do a show that I thought was important to the world. And that's not to say that shows themselves aren't important. There's not to say that there's not things that get remembered or that you shouldn't be as dedicated to that as you can everything else. But as any artist, you have to draw from your life to create something new. And when you choke living your life so that you can keep creating, eventually you kind of run out of stuff and start regurgitating the old stuff. And so in my younger years, while I definitely learned a lot from so many great artists, I think that would be something that I would caution myself against.
There you go. That's good advice.
Yeah.
If you could sit down for coffee with one person, living or past, who would it be?
I will say the one person that I've ever been starstruck by, and I regret not following like a creepy stalker, is I was on a flight with Buzz Aldrin once, and I very much regret not just walking with him for 5 minutes, because everything I've read and a few people that I've talked to have even said that they've just approached him, and he's like the nicest human and will talk to anyone for as long as they want without being rude or without being shoved off. I would just love to, like, there's so few iconic things that you can say people have done that are, give the pun of otherworldly, and this man is like walked on the moon. One of the things that I heard about him is he used to talk to people and tell really bad jokes about the moon, and then when they wouldn't really laugh, he would just say, you have to be there. And so I wish I could chat with him for longer, waving at him. Yeah.
All right, so it's time for the Olympics, man. Your country's called, Jason. Summer or winter, what sport are you going to be in?
I am captain of the U.S. curling team. I have from the magic shoe on down to whatever it is they do. That seems like the world's strangest, most intense sport that I would never in a million years want to miss an opportunity to be part of. I don't know what's in that goofy stone that they throw. I don't know what the hell they're yelling at each other or what the purpose of a brooming ice is, but I got to tell you, I think that's something that calls to me, and that's something that I want to be a part of in the future.
For reasons I could never explain, when it comes on TV, I'm glued to it. Well, awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
It's great to spend some time with you and hear your thoughts, and we greatly appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thank you kindly.
All right, man. Be well, Jason.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.